Made someone a promise to pay them something, and you might be paying that in a future year. Doesn't matter if it is or not. Once you've made the promise, and it could be in a future year, then 409A applies. And the key thing about 409A to remember is that with proper planning, most problems with 409A can be avoided. And so to start with, things that are not covered by 409A, the ISOs are not covered. Restricted stock is not covered by 409A, so those two, everything we talk about with 409A, those two, just forget everything I've said. For non-qualified stock and SARs for phantom stock, if they're given under one of the exceptions, one of the biggest ones being if they're at fair market value, you normally don't have to worry about 409A. The disadvantage, like we mentioned before, is if you want to give people a deal, you want to give it to them for free, that eliminates your ability to use that exemption. And so, as we'll see, 409A puts in place some rules that need to weigh. Do you want to give people the stock at a deal or for free, or do you want to have the freedom that comes with being exempt from 409A? Two other parts, anything that's paid within 2.5 months after the fiscal year of when it vests, that seems really complicated, that's March 15th of the year after it vested, is not subject to 409A as long as it's fully paid out and earned by then. When we talk about vesting, things are vested for 409A when they're not subject to a substantial risk of forfeiture and when they're now transferable. And so substantial risk of forfeiture seems like a straightforward concept, but basically for 409A, it requires that the compensation is pegged to whatever the compensation is for. So for example, we want to have an IPO. You can have it subject to a risk of forfeiture until there's an IPO, or more commonly, you have to keep working for a set period of time. Whether that's 1 year or 10, as long as it's in writing, that's what matters. The one thing that's important to remember, which is different from every other tax law, is promising not to do something, not to compete, is not a substantial risk of forfeiture for 409A. They have to actually be doing something for you, not doing something for you. And so the other key thing to keep in mind is in the event there's ever a problem with 409A, you realize there's some kind of mistake. While things are subject to a substantial risk of forfeiture, it's okay to amend them without having violated 409A. And that's one of the big things to think about is what exactly does 409A do? Basically, all 409A cares about is that everything is in writing, and then when and how people are getting the compensation you've promised them. And so you'll see on the slides or the PowerPoints, whatever we're looking at, there's basically 6 triggers. And these are the times when people can get the compensation they've been promised that's subject to 409A. And that's